This is how we helped the aphid pressure on our farm go from this to this in just one season. Now, a very quick disclaimer up front. Farming is about balancing about 7 dozen different variables at any given time. Farming has lots of fluke bad years and fluke good years, and it would be very irresponsible for me to say that any one or two or even 5 things that we did had a substantial impact from a year to another, right? Like we could have had a very fluke bad year last year and a very fluke good year this year. But I do think that what I want to share should be shared, and that's for 2 reasons. One is that the things that we did on the farm, I think, are good for the soil and good for the ecosystem, regardless of what effects they may or may not have had immediately. And number 2 is that the things and the practices that we did are rooted in real science. And so I don't feel like I'm like selling you snake oil or anything like that. All right, let's get into it. A tiny bit of context. Most of the aphid pressure on our farm is in our high tunnel. In fact, almost all of it. We almost never get aphid pressure in the field. And last year we had it really bad on our ranunculus and our sweet peas. So we leased property. We took over the high tunnel that we grow in. It had been grown in by other farmers before. And when we got our soil test back, it was very high in nitrogen and nitrates. And so something to know about areas of soil like this one that are covered by plastic is that they get less of the natural flushing effect of rain. So rain will fall into soil and will flush out excess nitrogen. And in fact, when farmers over-fertilize, that's what contributes and causes like eutrophication in rivers and streams and lakes. But that's beside the point. The point is the tunnel was very high in nitrogen. And something about aphids and other sucking insects is that they love to feed on plants that are growing in areas with excess nitrogen. Okay, so we have a tunnel that we know has too much nitrogen, and we have plants covered in aphids that we know are not unrelated to that nitrogen. So there's 2 things we did that I want to share with you today. The first has to do with balancing out that nitrogen, and I'm going to circle back to that in a second. The second one is a little bit contradictory insofar as it's that we did nothing. So when you have a pest on the farm like aphids, there are a number of different organic sprays you can use to kill those pests. And I'm of the opinion that traditional organic farming is rooted in a lot of the same psychology as conventional ag, insofar as it's a lot of short-term solution thinking, very input reliant, and just not really focused on systemic solutions to systemic problems. And so this can be really difficult because you're balancing production pressure against wanting to approach the problem with a long-term solution. For us, it worked out that we were able to sacrifice what would have been more harvest for the sake of letting the ecosystem balance itself. And that's because any of those sprays that we could have used to kill the aphids would have also harmed the natural predators that existed in that tunnel to help balance them out. And so by not doing anything, by not spraying anything, we saw the most incredible diverse ecosystem bloom in that tunnel. I saw so many ladybugs, lacewings, predatory wasps, birds, bugs that I had never seen before that I still don't know, what they were. And even this season, where we have almost no aphid pressure, there were no aphids on our ranunculus at all, there were very minimal aphids on our sweet peas, I still see those predators in the tunnel. So I know that their populations are coming back and fighting what aphids do remain, because there's always going to be pests. But by letting the predatory populations survive, I'm kind of letting them naturally calibrate. And I think that's so important for long-term farm pest management, is figuring out a balance between immediately getting rid of the pest in order to meet whatever production needs you have, while also allowing for a little bit of sacrifice to the larger ecosystem. But to circle back to the original nitrogen balancing piece, what we did to address the excess nitrates was cover cropping. And again, talking about production pressure, we did want to produce in the tunnel that season. So for part of the tunnel, we put buckwheat in, which is a very quick cover crop. It gets in and out very quickly, and it sucks up a lot of the excess nitrates. And the other part of the tunnel where we could afford to wait on production, we put in a summer cover crop mix. And I'll put on screen what was in it. We always prefer to do a mix instead of a single cover crop, because a diversity of crops attracts a diversity of benefits and a diversity of different microorganisms. When that cover crop was done, terminated, mowed, we raked it into the pathways. And like I said, could have been a fluke bad year, fluke good year, but the results we saw from what we did in just one season were incredible. Now, could all of those pests come back next season? Could they come back worse? Absolutely. But do I think that what we did in terms of cover cropping and encouraging natural predators was good for the soil and good for the ecosystem? 100%. And so I wanted to share that with you. because for us, it was a little success story about working with the soil and working with the plants to get the outcome that's good for everybody. If you have other ecologically based pest control tips, send them my way. Okay, thanks, bye.